Remember when Vince McMahon stormed the ring at the Royal Rumble and tore both his quads just sliding in? Or when a rookie nearly snapped Kurt Angle's arm live on SmackDown? WWE sells controlled chaos, but sometimes the cameras catch something nobody planned for. These are WWE moments that were never supposed to be filmed. Starting with Vince McMahon tearing both quads. The Royal Rumble 2005 had one job: get Batista to the finish line. The Save Mart Center in Fresno was packed, the card was stacked, and the whole night was built around one outcome. Batista wins, goes to WrestleMania 21. Everybody goes home happy. Except nobody went home happy that night. As the match narrowed down to its final two, Cena and Batista, the finish called for Batista to press slam Cena over the top rope. Clean elimination.
Done.
But Batista lost his grip mid-move, and both men tumbled over the ropes at the exact same time. A double elimination. The referees froze. The crowd buzzed with confusion, and backstage, pure panic. That's when Vince McMahon, 59 years old and not a wrestler, stormed the ring, only to collapse, immobilized in agony.
And then when I saw Vince coming down, I was like, getting fired. So I can't remember where we were at like the next day. Went to his office and my heart is beating. I'm like just in my head packing my bag.
But here's the part that became legendary. Vince McMahon, both legs destroyed, barely able to move, sat in that corner and kept running the show, barking orders at the referees, directing the restart, never once breaking character. Batista ultimately eliminated Cena, as planned. The Rumble ended, and only after the cameras cut did anyone help McMahon out of that ring.
And I walk into his office, and he's sitting, he's got his crutches beside him, he's all bandaged up, and he just starts laughing. And I was like, you're not gonna fire me?
The next day, McMahon was in Birmingham, Alabama, under the knife of Dr. James Andrews. He was off television for months. And a moment that was supposed to be a triumphant Rumble finish became something far more unforgettable. The night the most powerful man in wrestling sat helpless on the mat and still refused to quit. Mickie James' raunchy crotch gesture. Few feuds in WWE Women's history hit the heights of Trish Stratus versus Mickie James. Months of obsession, stalking, forced kisses, and shrine building all led to one destination: a women's championship match at WrestleMania 22 in Chicago. The crowd was invested. The storyline was electric, and Mickie James was about to do something nobody in that building was prepared for. The match itself was electric, back and forth, high impact. The Chicago crowd was completely invested. Midway through, Trish attempted her signature Stratusfaction off the ropes. Mickie countered by grabbing her low, very low, specifically her crotch. Then Mickie James turned to face the hard camera, formed a V with her fingers, and licked her tongue between them slowly, deliberately, in front of millions watching live on pay-per-view. The crowd exploded. Jerry Lawler lost his mind on commentary, and somewhere in the back, Vince McMahon's face turned a shade of red the cameras never caught.
There's a moment in that WrestleMania match with Trish where you do a certain gesture.
Yes. I mean, the people loved it.
The people loved?
Vicky had pitched something to agent Steve Karen before the match, a milder version, just licking her finger after the crotch grab, something that played into her character's obsession. She got tentative approval, but in the heat of the moment, in front of that Chicago crowd, she escalated it. Full V-lick, live on pay-per-view.
Go back through the curtain, Vince is pissed. He's like, that was crass. Do you know what we're going to have to do? How much money it's going to cost to edit that and to pull it from we're a publicly traded company.
She thought she'd get a hug, maybe a high five. Instead, she walked through the curtain and straight into a storm. WWE moved fast. DVD releases, network archives, Peacock streams. That moment was cut and replaced with crowd shots.
Gone.
Officially erased. But as Mickie herself admitted, the internet never forgets.
I was like, oh!
But that footage is nowhere to be found.
You can't find it, or at least not in the WWE vault.
The match itself ended with Mickie winning the Women's Championship in what Trish Stratus has called her favorite career match. The gesture that almost cost Mickie everything is now a meme, a legend, and a symbol of the moment one wrestler decided the character needed to go all the way, and took it further than anyone in that building was prepared for. Daniel Puter's real armbar on Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle didn't just play a tough guy. He was an Olympic gold medalist, a WWE champion, a man whose entire persona was built on legitimate athletic dominance. So when WWE needed someone to test the toughness of tough enough contestants live on SmackDown in late 2004, Angle was the obvious choice. The plan was simple: quick worked exchanges, showcase his dominance, make the segment look intense. Nobody was supposed to get hurt. Nobody was supposed to shoot. Then Daniel Puder raised his hand. Puder was 23 years old, with an 8-0 MMA record and real grappling training behind him. When Angle charged in and took him down, Puder didn't sell it, he countered. He slipped his arm under Angle's and locked in a kimura, a real one, cranked tight. Angle's face went purple. His shoulder was moments away from dislocating or snapping.
And then I decided, you know what, I'm going to try this son of a bitch. So I took Daniel Puder, and we had like a shoot wrestling match. And the thing is, it was supposed to be by pinfall.
Angle knew immediately what was happening. This wasn't a cooperative spot. It was a real submission attempt, live on national television, with Angle's arm on the line.
But Daniel had my arm tight. I mean, if he would have, if it would have lasted 5 more seconds, he would have broke my arm.
Referee Jim Cordera saw it too, and he saved Angle, fast counting a pin despite Puder's shoulders not being fully flat on the mat. 1, 2, 3. Match over. Angle was declared the winner. What followed backstage was fury. Angle was humiliated. The locker room was stunned, and Puder, despite winning the tough enough competition, was paying a price that had nothing to do with kayfabe. At the 2005 Royal Rumble, veterans Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, and Bob Holly took turns hitting him with the stiffest chops imaginable, leaving his chest bloodied in what the locker room considered earned punishment. By September 2005, he was released. Puder transitioned to MMA. Angle later reflected on it as a learning experience, admitting his neck injury at the time had left him physically vulnerable and that he had invited the confrontation by issuing the open challenge. The clip lives on as one of the most dangerous real moments ever caught on a WWE broadcast, and proof that the line between worked and shoot can disappear in seconds. The Montreal Screwjob. No moment in wrestling history has been analyzed, argued over, and mythologized more than what happened at Survivor Series 1997. The Molson Center in Montreal. 20,000 fans watching Bret Hart defend his WWF Championship against Shawn Michaels in what was built as a personal grudge match. What they witnessed instead was wrestling's most infamous betrayal, a real double-cross executed live on pay-per-view in front of the whole world. The backstory is complicated and deeply personal. Bret was leaving for WCW. His contract allowed him creative control over his final 30 days, and he refused to drop the belt to Michaels in Canada, his home country. Real animosity between the two men made that position non-negotiable. Alternatives were proposed. All of them failed, and Vince McMahon, terrified of Bret appearing on WCW television while still holding the WWF Championship, went behind his back. The plan was hatched in secret. McMahon, Michaels, Triple H, referee Earl Hebner, and a handful of producers. During the match, when Michaels locked in Bret's own sharpshooter submission, Hebner called for the bell immediately, without Bret tapping. Bret hadn't submitted. The match wasn't supposed to end that way, but the bell rang, and Michaels was handed the title.
The whole screw job is based on a single conversation between me and Shawn, maybe a month before the screw job, where I stopped him. I said, we're wrestling each other at Survivor Series.
Bret had actually gone to Shawn before the event and told him he had no issue dropping the title, that he'd always keep him safe in the ring. Shawn's response was the seed of everything that followed.
And I said that to him, and I remember Shawn looked at me, and this is where it all came from, is he looked at me and said, well, I appreciate that, but I just want you to know that I'm not willing to do the same thing for you.
Bret spat at Vince ringside, destroyed monitors, and spelled out WCW with his finger in the air. Backstage, he punched McMahon and gave him a black eye. The Undertaker demanded an apology on Bret's behalf. The fallout was seismic. Bret went to WCW. His run there ended when Goldberg gave him a concussion that finished his career. The screw job, captured fully on camera and completely unplanned in its raw, real aftermath, gave birth to the Mr. McMahon villain character that fueled the entire Attitude Era. The monster that drove WWE's greatest ratings surge was born in the ugliest possible way, in a moment no one was supposed to see for what it really was.